purpose of this lecture is really to show you when you actually have, let's say, some array or like a sophisticated structure, like composite structure in your supplier class. How can you make sure any updates you do can actually be successfully captured by some complete contracts? So if you actually have some wrong implementation, your post condition shouldn't really let go with that. It should really give you some post condition validation. That's really the responsibility for the post condition. Okay, so we talk about for complete contracts. So it's important that if you have multiple, you have a number of attributes in your class, you should really say something about it in your post condition. Maybe you have a tag, and you say for this particular attribute, this is how it should be changed or stay unchanged after the feature, either command or query. Okay, that's what we talked about. And the tricky thing is, if you have some sophisticated structure, then how can you make sure the rest of the structure didn't change? So that's actually where we, how I'm introducing you to Okay, so this is actually just about how the Eval runtime will actually check your pre and post condition. The trickiest part is really about how it actually captures the old expression that will be compared against in the post condition. I hope this is not too dark. It doesn't seem to be able to turn on the lights. I'll try to write larger font. So in general, so if you have your feature here, okay, let's say it's a command, and you have some require. Okay, you have some do, and you have some end. You have some ensure. Okay, here you have something. Something else. So before the feature is executed, you have to evaluate all the expressions in the require to make sure that the precondition is satisfied. Okay. Also, you have to evaluate the invariance of the class to make sure there's no class invariance violated. Two things to evaluate it. And the third thing it has to do for the purpose of later evaluation for the post condition. So basically, let's say, the simple case, let's say if you say balance is equal to old balance plus 1, for example. So it's going to look for the old expression here. So this is the old expression, okay? It's going to take this part because we want to get the old value for the balance. So we should really evaluate that beforehand. So what you will do is to, under the hood, create some temporary variable, like a cache variable, that can be used later when you evaluate the post condition. So in this case, it might be called simply O-balance. Okay? It's assigned. So whatever value this will return is going to be assigned to this temporary variable. So whether this assignment will actually involve any shallow copy or deep copy really depends how you specify the condition here, the expression here. The Eval has no control over that. So whatever you have here is going to copy verbatim to there. So that means before this feature here is executed, it's going to evaluate what's the value for balance currently before the feature is executed. Okay, cache that somewhere by this variable. And now, after the feature is executed, it's going to evaluate the balance here. So you can see the balance here certainly is different from the balance here, because this balance here is the current value after the feature is executed. So now we can actually do the comparison to see if this value here is equal plus 1 is equal to this value here. Right? That's the overall picture. Okay? So now the tricky thing is, sometimes tricky thing is when you actually have a structure to actually compare, let's say you have an array rather than just a single value like an integer, then the expression you put here for the old has to be very carefully put. Because if you somehow simply just put, let's say, some array here, you will see that it's only going to be a reference copy that's going to be made. If you put something that twin, it's going to make a shallow copy. If you put a deep twin, some deep copy will be used. Okay, so as I said, Eval runtime has no control over this. Whatever you specify here will just be evaluated verbatim on here. So that's why you've got to be very careful. So that's actually the purpose of the rest of the slides. I want to show you how the difference can be made. So far so good? Yes, Chris? Yeah.
I found that.
Okay, so just remind you again, so we have basically three classes to consider. And we have the account. We have the account class. In the account we have owner, we have balance, and we have also the commands, also deposit, which will increment the value of the balance. Okay, that's straightforward. Also we have some redefined feature for this equal. Okay, and now this is a critical class because you can see that the bank class actually has an array of accounts over here. And then, so it has two features. So you can see account of and also add. Let's have a look at the add first. So the add feature is actually going to actually find, let's say if you say add Steve, for example. In this case, it's going to add a new account to the accounts, and the account owner is going to be Steve, right? So here it actually tells you how to do that by using the array feature. So you can just look at the code yourself. So for example, if I ask you to implement this in the midterm, so you should really write valid Eiffel syntax. That's what I meant by valid Eiffel syntax, and nothing else. Okay, that's a command here. And this is a query here because it has a return type of account. It's simply just going to find out the account objects that's associated with the name. So if I say account of Steve, it's going to return back to me the account objects. So I can do some further thing with that object. Okay? So account of and add. So these are the critical features to remember. I'll show you in the example. Okay, so we actually have 5 different versions of postcondition for the this particular feature here for on the in the bank class. Okay, so this is a command or a query. Command or query. Command or query. Anyone says that's a query?
Command.
Why is that a command?
Because it doesn't return some like true or false.
It doesn't return any type, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So you guys shouldn't be hesitant on this kind of question, right? Otherwise it will take you forever to write a midterm. Right. Okay. So deposit on is a command, that's absolutely correct. It's going to deposit on a particular owner with the amount. So for example, we can deposit onto Steve's account with $10. Okay? Now, you can see the issue here. If we're trying to, let's say we have 2 accounts currently, we have Steve and we have Bill. If you only intend to increase Steve's account, but we also have to make sure Bill's account stay unchanged. So that's a tricky part, okay? So now we're going to show you 5 different versions. So the first version, we have some incomplete contracts, but you're lucky because the supplier happens to get the implementation right. So that one's okay. The second version is you still have the same incomplete contract, but this time you're not so lucky because the supplier got it wrong. However, even if the supplier got it wrong, but you still actually get your post condition didn't catch that because the contract doesn't really restrict the supplier strong enough to ask them to do the right thing. And version 3, 4, and 5 are where we're actually going to show you can actually try to gradually build up some solution for the complete contracts from reference copy up to deep copy. And it will turn out only deep copy will be satisfactory. Okay? Let's see. So now this will be the, okay, so this is actually how we do the implementation for deposit on. So we're going to use the same implementation here. So this is the correct implementation. You simply run through the account and find out if the current owner is actually equal to, for example, Steve, then we'll do the deposit. Otherwise, we skip. Okay, and then here the contract simply saying, since we are trying to only trying to find an existing account and change it, so the size of the account should not change, right? And then also, you can see now we're trying to make a query account of balance, which means we're going to find out in the current value of the accounts, find out this particular owner, and then try to compare the value of his balance and make sure it has been increased. Okay? So let me, actually, once I get to the test case, I'll draw you the diagram. Okay, just a review of last time. So now the problem for this post condition is, it simply tells you that the name that we're trying to the account that we intend to modify is properly modified. However, it didn't say anything about what about the rest of the accounts. What if they have been changed? The post condition here says nothing about it. Okay, so that means if you do anything suspicious here or malicious here, it's not going to be caught by the post condition. That's the first critical point to note. Okay, so now this is going to be the general test we're going to run for all the 5 cases, for all the 5 versions. So we're going to let me draw the diagram for now, so you can actually see how to compare different versions. So you can see that. So here, first line, we are trying to create an empty bank. So the empty bank simply have the accounts. It's going to point to some empty array. Let's just draw it like that, empty array. And now the next line, we're going to add bell into the bank, so which means we're going to expand the array to be of size 1. And then it's going to point to the account objects here. Okay, and let's say account has the owner and the balance. So the owner here is Bill. Add another new account, which means we're going to extend the array by another cell. And you have to know the across notation very well. I'm sure you are. So both. Okay. Cursor. And then, so that's a universal quantification here, which means all the items have to satisfy the condition there. So you would say cursor dot item dot owner if it is not equal to, so we are doing object comparison since we're using the tilde notation here, and not equal to n. We're going to see later on, this is what syntactically speaking, this is not too far away from the correct answer. Okay, only a few characters away. However, it makes a huge difference in terms of the meaning. Okay, if you look at that, we know we're going to go across something. Okay, that's something there. Okay, because account is actually an array, so that's iterable by default. And we're going to see, okay, so somehow we want to say the old account is actually going to somehow represent the old value for the accounts, because we want to compare the old value of the account and the new value of the account. I'm trying to say that while bill in the old account and bill in the new account should really remain the same. They should be equal to each other. So there shouldn't be any difference. Okay, as we can see this example here, in the old bill's account, in bill's old account value is actually 0, but the new value is actually 100. So they are not equal. So we actually want to see if this incorrect behavior here can be caught at that post condition. That's the goal. But let's make sure to see if you can really understand that. So somehow we're going to go across this notation here. So how is IFA going to handle this? Okay, so now because this is actually part of the post condition here, so what IFA would do before let me see this here, before executing this feature here, it's going to evaluate the precondition for sure. It's going to evaluate any variance, and it's going to cache this expression here because it has the whole keyword in there, right? So it's going to copy, it's going to take this expression here verbatim, okay? And then it's going to create some temporary cache variable. Accounts is assigned to accounts. This is done before that feature is executed. Agree? Okay? So what's really the effects of doing that? Okay. And okay, let's keep this in mind. Let's just go further to understand what's really being said in this across here. So now the cursor is actually going to go iterate through the old value of the account, presumably. Okay? So that means every time you see something like that, cursor the item, the owner. Okay, that's the cursor here. Cursor the item here. Anytime that you see the cursor in the front, that means we're trying to be, that means we're referring to value, the old value of the old value of the accounts. You follow me so far? Okay, let me say that again. Because now we're trying to use the cursor to iterate through the old accounts. So now in this expression here, since we're using the cursor, that means we're iterating through the old value of the accounts. So this should really return back to us the old value of Bill's accounts owner. And this one should also return back to us Bill's account before the feature was executed, the old value basically. And now, this is essentially the argument, so nothing special about it. So now, you have to understand this is the key part. So what is this trying to do? Account of is actually going to return, it's going to return the account objects, that's specific to the name of the, specific to this name here. So we can see that this here, again, refers to the old name, the name of the old account, right? So let's say, in this case, it would be Bill. Okay, so here, it would be Bill as well. Okay, so here you will also be Bill. Okay, the name has been changed. But now, when we say account of Bill, is it going to return the new Bill's account or the old one?
The new one?
Why? That's really the key
The
thing.
reference copy for old.
Hmm?
Because old is reference copy.
No, nothing to do with copy yet. No, yes.
Because only is a string and like a...
Oh, actually, okay, let me make it clearer. Okay, my question is, this expression here is going to return back to me an account objects. Okay, that's something we agree. But now my question is it going to return the old objects of Bill's account, or is going to return the new objects of Bill's account? Remember in Java, there's a keyword called this, right? So whenever you actually, in your current class, if you say, I have some method call, let's say also a count of something, that's, if you didn't specify any feature, any method called targets, that's basically as if you said this dot account of, right? It's actually this, that means the current objects, not any previous objects. And now here is similar issue here. So now, implicitly, you actually have, so this is equivalent to, if you say current, the current is actually a keyword in iPhone, current dot. So that is to say, we are going to evaluate this account of query on the current objects. And because now we are already in the post-condition stage, so the current objects should be the bank after this feature is executed. Agree? Okay, so that's the intuition for this across loop. Again, we're trying to go across the old value for the accounts one by one, and the one we really worry about is Bill's account, because that one has been improperly, inappropriately updated. So now, we can see that we want to say if that all accounts owner happens to be Bill, then we have to check something. Okay? If that's Bill, then we are going to compare that account in the old states, in the pre-states, with that account in the after states. And the reason that we can see this is in the old states, okay, to make it even more explicit, you should really make a note here. This is the old states. And this here is really in the new states. Or sometimes we say this is the pre-states, and this is the post-states. So actually it's before the feature is executed, and this one after the feature is executed. So now we're trying to say, now Bill's account from the pre-states should be equal to the Bill's account from the post-states. That's the intuition. However, is this really going to do it? So that's why we're going to talk about the copy issue. Okay, now, that's good for now. You certainly have to still have to think about it yourself. To evaluate the accounts objects here, So this is the, let's say we start with this. This is the accounts before the feature was executed. So let me just put this back. Before, so both are 0 here. Okay, this is before the deposit was occurred. So now, IFO is actually going to, let's say it's all accounts. So how is the diagram going to look like after this caching process? It's going to be like something like that. So you have old accounts, right? Because it's actually simply a reference copy. Okay? Oh, yes.
What's the difference between deep twin and the clone commands?
Oh, in Java? In iPhone. So clone was simply just, okay? You can see that it doesn't take any arguments. We simply just return back to a new object. Okay? However, if you say clone, you have to pass some argument here. Let's say ACC2. What this would do is going to copy the contents of ACC2 over to ACC1. But the way they copy the contents will be shallow, which means from the second level onward, it's going to simply give you the same references. But if the deep clone is going to give you really to create some new, that's a similar idea. Yeah, but for the purpose of the later, for the rest of the course, you only have to know twins and deep twin. But it's good to know clone anyway. Yeah. Okay, so now this will be an exercise for you. So please do go over this lecture carefully. There will be some kind of question on this on the midterm. I can already tell you, but that one will be actually not as hard as this one here, not as hard as this one. However, you do have to understand this, how we actually build up the solution for you. It's really important. Okay. This will be the exercise for you. So now you can see that the contract we were trying to write for was actually a command, because this command is trying to modify the accounts on a single spot. That's why we want to make sure the rest of the spots are unchanged. But now what about just a general query? Here, let's say we have another, the account of. Because the account of simply returns something, so that's actually a query. Remember, we actually say commands should actually modify the states. It's supposed to modify the state, but query should not modify the state. What's that principle?
Uniform access.
Well, no. It's good that you try. Okay, we take one out. Okay, what else?
What was the question again?
Oh, what's the question? The question is, you need to have a way to enforce that programmatically, right? And the way to enforce that is by writing complete contracts. So now the question for you is, because this is a query here, so we want to make sure the old value for the accounts should be equal to the new value of the accounts. Now, how do we ensure that? I do you a favor. I enumerated all the possible answers here. You got to work out which one should be the correct answer. I wouldn't tell you the answer now, but you should really work out which one should be the best, which one should be the only appropriate one, and why the other ones are not. That's something you should really think about. Okay, that's the exercise for you. And actually, we're not too bad in terms of time. Any questions?